Oh no, the president's script is missing. Sophia, an executive assistant, was in a panic as the meeting was about to begin. Apparently, the script the president needed for the meeting with the foreign department store Mary's had gone missing. Kyle, another executive assistant, was smirking at Sophia. It seemed possible that Sophia had been set up by Kyle. Kyle had been openly dissatisfied with the fact that Sophia shared the role of executive assistant with him. In the end, I was the one chosen to accompany Kevin, an executive, along with Kyle, instead of Sophia. Kyle was probably hoping I'd make a fool of myself. If I, who had often comforted and encouraged Sophia, made a mistake big enough to get fired, it would play right into Kyle's hands. As soon as Jason, the president of Mary's, saw me, he smiled and said, "It's been a while. Glad to see you're doing well." Kyle was surprised to see that Jason knew me. But Kyle was about to be even more surprised. "My name is Henry, 33 years old. I'm currently employed at Thornton's, working as a dedicated driver for Kevin, one of the executives. Thornton's is a department store chain with locations across Japan and has expanded into major cities like Los Angeles and New York. Given that I work for a stable company, most people probably think I have a trouble-free life. However, my journey to my current position was anything but smooth. Every morning, I dress neatly, shine up a luxury car with wax, and head to Kevin's house. Standing in front of the intercom, I adjust my tie and press the button. Soon, Kevin's wife appears, greeting me warmly with, "Thank you always for your hard work." Eventually, a distinguished gentleman with well-groomed, slightly graying hair appears at the entrance. I bow deeply, open the rear door, and invite Kevin into the car. Quickly returning to the driver's seat, I gently press the gas pedal and start our usual morning routine. Of course, it wasn't my dream to be an executive's driver. In fact, I have quite an impressive academic background. I was born in Japan, but when I was 2, my family moved to the United States for my parents' work. We moved from state to state, so I was more comfortable with English than Japanese as a child. Though I was raised in a free-spirited environment, my parents enrolled me in a Japanese school. Thinking I might return to Japan someday and need to experience its academic rigor. I've always had the personality to look things up if I didn't understand, so studying was never a burden for me. In the end, my father was never transferred back to Japan, and I spent my whole childhood in the United States. With dreams of a career in business, I pursued a degree in economics at Harvard University. Student life at an American university is nothing like the laid-back experience at a Japanese university. Without intense studying, grades drop quickly, and it's easy to end up failing. So, for those 4 years, I didn't even work part-time, focusing solely on my studies, and ultimately graduated from Harvard with high honors. Everyone around me likely envisioned a bright future ahead. However, life has a way of unfolding in unexpected ways. After several ups and downs, I found myself back in Japan at 33, working as a driver for Kevin and employed by Thornton's. The car carrying Kevin slid smoothly into the underground parking at Thornton's headquarters. Every morning, 2 people stand at attention there, waiting. Kevin, as an executive at Thornton's, has 2 assistants. They are Kyle and Sophia. Apparently, Kevin values having both a male and female perspective to support his work effectively. As Kevin steps out of the car, they bow deeply and greet him with a polite good morning. The 3 of them then step into the elevator, heading up to the executive suite on the 8th floor. This is my moment to catch my breath. Stepping out of the car, I stretch and take a deep breath, gearing up for the day ahead. Though I'm just the driver for these 3, observing them can be rather entertaining. Kyle graduated from a well-known national university with a degree in English and is particularly useful when Kevin meets with foreign clients. Meanwhile, Sophia majored in social anthropology at a private women's college and struggles a bit with English. Although there is no official hierarchy between the 2, Kyle's overbearing personality makes him act as if he were Sophia's superior. He often sneers at Sophia, who graduated from a well-known women's college, saying things like, "This is why those privileged girls are hopeless." Having been trained intensively in English from a young age, Kyle has a strong admiration for people who grew up overseas. He holds a grudge against his circumstances, feeling that if his parents had had more money, he could have attended a university abroad. On the other hand, observing Sophia, it's clear she had few financial struggles, yet still faced her own issues. Since elementary school, she attended elite all-girls schools, yet often felt out of place around her classmates. She strongly resisted the idea that women should support men and be taken care of. Feeling like a bird in a cage, Sophia joined Thornton's with a strong desire to escape her strict parents. They held the outdated belief that marriage and homemaking were the best path for a woman, an idea Sophia fiercely resisted. One time, while it was just the two of us left in the car, Sophia shared her thoughts with me. My parents have such outdated beliefs. They think a woman's place is to get married and stay at home. Well, I think it's just a mindset. The reason so many couples work these days is that it's hard to live on just one salary. Oh, you're right. Thanks. I really need to stop letting it get to me, or Kyle will just mock me again. The two assistants don't get along in the slightest. Kevin and Sophia always sit together in the back seat, with Kyle riding in the passenger seat. Even this arrangement bothers Kyle, as he watches Kevin turn to Sophia for help with barely concealed bitterness. Kyle seems to see Sophia as an adversary, and he's constantly playing petty tricks on her. It's a regular occurrence for Kyle to shut the door just as Sophia is about to get in right after Kevin. He'll even hand her a pen for taking notes but deliberately give her one that's out of ink. Honestly, his antics are so childish that, as a fellow man, I feel embarrassed. Having spent so many years in the United States, I naturally developed a habit of acting with courtesy toward women. And I sympathize with Sophia's genuine outlook, so I've tried to support her whenever I can. Kyle clearly doesn't appreciate my efforts. His harassment of Sophia has only intensified, and I've grown increasingly concerned. Around this time, news surfaced of a potential partnership between Thornton's and the global department store chain, Mary's. It was a major event in Thornton's history, generating enough buzz to make it onto TV news. Jason, the president of Mary's, was coming to Japan, and Kyle and Sophia were busy preparing for the meeting. I kept a close eye on Kyle to see if he would pull one of his usual tricks on Sophia, but surprisingly, they were working more smoothly than ever. To be honest, since hearing the name Mary's, I'd barely had the capacity to keep an eye on Sophia. I have no idea how to express this feeling. People often say they have mixed feelings, and that sums it up perfectly. After all, I used to be an employee at Mary's. This American department store, which I thought I'd left behind, was suddenly right within reach. I also knew Jason, the president, quite well. I wasn't sure if he'd remember me. As long as I remained Kevin's driver, I wouldn't need to come face to face with the American president. It's not that I didn't want to see him, there are countless things I'd like to say. But part of me wanted things to stay peaceful, without stirring up the past. Finally, the day of the meeting arrived. Kevin and President Thornton were scheduled to visit the hotel room where Jason was staying. As usual, I waited for Kevin in the underground parking lot. Sophia and Kyle arrived ahead of him. The president would be heading directly to the hotel in a separate car. As the three of us waited by the car for Kevin, Kyle suddenly turned to Sophia and asked, "Sophia, you were in charge of the president's script, right? Can you show it to me?" "Oh, yes. I have it here in this envelope," she replied. "I just want to check something. You wouldn't understand the English anyway, so let me have a look." Sophia reached into her bag to retrieve the envelope. I glanced into the rearview mirror, wondering why it was taking so long, and saw Sophia frantically searching through the contents of the envelope. "Oh no, the president's script is missing. Could it be, did you lose it? If so, that's a serious problem. I'm sure I put it in here." Sitting in the passenger seat, Kyle smirked, glancing back at Sophia with a sly expression. It crossed my mind that Sophia might have been set up by Kyle. I knew all too well how painful it was to be undermined by someone you worked alongside. While I was debating how to handle the situation, Kevin appeared from the elevator. Seeing Sophia's distressed look, he asked, "What's going on?" "Sophia seems to have lost the president's script." "What should we do?" "It's entirely in English and contains everything related to the upcoming contract." "I see, so that's his game," I thought, understanding Kyle's intentions. I quickly realized Kyle's intention to leverage his English skills, step in as a savior, and boost his own standing. At this rate, Sophia would be left with all the blame, while Kyle would likely claim full credit for the deal's success. After a brief pause, Kevin spoke. "Then, instead of Sophia, Henry, I want you to come along." "What?" "Henry's just a driver. He's not someone we should bring to a negotiation with the president. I'll decide who to bring and who stays behind." With Kevin's firm response, Kyle momentarily swallowed his words, caught off guard. It was clear he had no idea what Kevin was thinking. Of course, that was to be expected. Kevin was the only one here who knew my true background. In the end, I was tasked to accompany Kevin and Kyle in Sophia's place. Sophia, looking apologetic, bowed her head to me and whispered, "Thank you." I felt a quiet satisfaction knowing she trusted me. Perhaps she suspected there was more to me than just being a driver. So, the four of us got into the car and headed to the hotel where Jason awaited us. In the car, Kyle contacted the president's assistant on his phone to report that the script had gone missing. He leaned back in the passenger seat with a smug, condescending smile on his face. "Not to worry, we're bringing along our secret weapon, Henry." Sophia sat there, looking down, clearly distressed. Certain this was Kyle's scheme, I felt a pang seeing her so downcast. With no way to prove Kyle's involvement, my only option was to ensure the meeting went smoothly. I pulled up at the hotel entrance, handed the keys to the valet, and we headed into the lobby. Sophia stayed behind in the car. With a mix of nerves, I clutched the materials Sophia had entrusted to me and followed Kevin. Walking beside me, Kyle wore a constant smirk, making me feel increasingly uncomfortable. He was clearly hoping I'd embarrass myself. If I, someone who had always stood by Sophia, made a mistake big enough to get fired, it would play right into Kyle's hands. In the elevator, with Kevin's permission, I started reviewing the documents. All in English. There's no way a mere driver could understand it. Kyle scoffed, letting out a dismissive laugh. Kevin shot him a sharp glare, then shifted his gaze to me and asked, "What do you think? Can you handle it?" "Yes. I've reviewed the main points and can approximate what the president needs to say. He can speak in Japanese. And I'll translate and add context as needed to keep things moving smoothly." "Excellent." As Kyle said, "You truly are our secret weapon." While Kyle scoffed beside us, we arrived at the suite. Jason had rented out the entire top floor, and a blonde assistant guided us to the room. I felt a surge of tension I hadn't experienced in years and clenched my fists tightly. The guide opened the door and invited us inside. The room was the hotel's most luxurious suite, complete with an expansive living area. It was furnished with high-end pieces, and the view from the windows was absolutely stunning. Only the president of a global powerhouse like Mary's would conduct a business meeting with such elegance. Mr. Thornton had already arrived with his male assistant and was gazing out the large window at the city skyline. Kevin offered a brief explanation for the delay, and the president nodded in understanding. After a short wait, a large, East Asian-looking man emerged from the back room. It was Jason, the president of Mary's. First, the president greeted him with a handshake, followed by Kevin. With a warm, approachable smile, Jason extended his hand to us assistants as well. Feeling a bit humbled, I reached out and shook his hand. Then, Jason's smile grew even brighter, and he spoke to me in fluent Japanese. "It's been a while, Henry. Glad to see you're doing well. It's been a long time. I'm glad to see you're well too. It feels strange to be speaking in Japanese like this. Yesterday, I visited my grandmother's grave. Japan really is a wonderful country. Especially since it's home to talents like you. Kyle was more than just surprised. He was utterly dumbfounded to see that Jason knew me. Sure, it would be shocking for anyone to hear someone refer to a mere driver as a talent. But Kyle was about to be even more surprised. Unable to hold back, he turned to me, his curiosity overriding his focus on the business meeting. "What's going on? Why are you so friendly with Mary's president? This has to be the first time you've met." "Actually, it's not our first meeting," I replied. "I once worked for Mary's. But I don't think this is the right time to discuss my history. Let's focus on the meeting." And so, we entered the main phase of the negotiation. With me acting as Mr. Thornton's interpreter and providing additional explanations for the content outlined in the documents. Kyle, watching me navigate the conversation with Jason so smoothly, was utterly taken aback. The reason I could speak so comfortably with Jason was that we had once worked together. After graduating from Harvard, I planned to build my career in the United States and joined Mary's sales division. I was with Mary's for about 5 years. I introduced unexpected ideas that drew in customers, achieving success after success. My supervisors took a strong liking to me, going so far as to call me a future executive candidate. Being young, I let the praise get to my head, becoming bolder and more visible in my actions. Since Jason, an Asian like me, was part of the executive team, I didn't feel any sense of inferiority about my heritage. But I was the only one who thought that way. Other employees, particularly those from Western backgrounds, saw things differently. One of my colleagues was a woman named Mia, who joined the company at the same time as I did. Mia was also a Harvard graduate, and from the start of our careers, people constantly compared us. Apparently, this comparison bothered Mia immensely. With her blonde hair and blue eyes, she was the quintessential Western beauty, and her looks had turned heads since our university days. In contrast, while I was tall and fit, my East Asian appearance had caused me to miss out on several major opportunities. However, my easygoing personality served me well, allowing me to thrive and steadily build a track record despite the strong biases present in American society. Then, one day, it was discovered that Mia had embezzled company funds. Shockingly, during the investigation, she claimed that I was her accomplice. I denied it vehemently and even considered hiring a lawyer, but the cold stares around me wore me down, and eventually, I gave in. I resigned from Mary's and returned to Japan. For a while, I couldn't bring myself to do anything. I had enough savings, so I rented a nice apartment for myself and spent my days watching movies on a subscription service from morning to night. Just as I was starting to think I couldn't go on like this, Kevin, a senior from Harvard, reached out to me after hearing about my situation. That's when my life took a major turn. Kevin didn't just give me a job as a driver. In reality, I was also tasked with observing the two executive assistants, Kyle and Sophia. According to Kevin, although both of them were essential to his work, they had a deeply antagonistic relationship that threatened to cause issues. He wanted me, as his driver, to keep an eye on them and make sure neither attempted to undermine the other. Since I was already ready to get out of my lazy routine, I accepted Kevin's proposal. Thornton's, a large department store chain expanding worldwide, seemed like a natural fit. Especially with my experience at Mary's, another major department store. Starting the very next day, I began my work as a driver, observing Kyle and Sophia. As for the missing script today, it was Kyle's doing, an attempt to set Sophia up. I had cameras and microphones installed in the office, so there should be footage clearly showing him removing the script from the envelope. After wrapping up the successful meeting, I planned to retrieve the video evidence and show it to Kevin. That day's negotiation between Thornton's and Mary's was a huge success. The two companies would now establish a strong alliance and expand their presence globally. The agreement to open stores in developing countries, in particular, would significantly contribute to Thornton's growth. Everyone looked pleased, and seeing their satisfaction brought me a sense of pride as well. In the midst of this, Jason made an unexpected proposal. "Mr. Thornton, would you consider letting Henry return to our company? We bear responsibility for his wrongful dismissal due to poor oversight, and we'd like to make amends. In today's negotiations, Henry has proven to be an exceptionally skilled employee. Losing him would be a huge setback for us. I hope you understand. But he's currently working as an executive driver, isn't he? That role doesn't suit Henry. I'd like to give him greater responsibilities and a chance to rise within the company." I found myself torn between Jason and Mr. Thornton. Sensing my hesitation, Jason pressed further, attempting to sway me. "After thoroughly investigating the embezzlement case, it's been proven that you were innocent, Henry. Everyone wants to apologize for doubting you and hopes you'll return to work with us." I felt a sense of relief hearing that my innocence had been confirmed. Truthfully, a part of me did want to return to Mary's and restart my career there. However, I could also imagine that Thornton's, recognizing my contributions today, would likely offer me a new role beyond that of a driver. True, working in American society, Asians face many challenges, Jason continued. But I intend to change that from within. And I can assure you that no such prejudice would affect you at Mary's. Henry, please stay with us at Thornton's. Having seen your talents firsthand, it would be very painful to lose you to Mary's. We'll provide a role that reflects your skills. It had turned into a full-blown tug-of-war for my future. Kyle, sidelined from the discussion, had no opportunity to contribute. Choosing between Thornton's and Mary's was no easy decision, but I couldn't stop thinking about Sophia. Over time, as I observed her, I developed deep feelings for her. If I could have a fulfilling career at either company, I'd rather be near the person I cared about. It seemed Kevin had sensed my feelings, as he made a new proposal. "Henry, how about becoming our liaison with Mary's? I have no intention of letting your career end as an interpreter. I'll grant you the authority you need, and I want you to take charge of our dealings with Mary's." Kevin's offer would allow me to build a close relationship with Mary's while staying at Thornton's, which sounded like an ideal arrangement. I accepted his offer and shook his hand with gratitude. That afternoon, I arranged a private meeting and presented the video evidence to Kevin, showing Kyle's attempt to set up Sophia. I've had my doubts about Kyle for a while now. Sophia may lack confidence, but she's meticulous and a pleasure to work with. Trying to sabotage her like that is a serious offense. Moreover, Kyle's actions had almost jeopardized the negotiation, making it something Mr. Thornton couldn't overlook. As a result, Mr. Thornton decided to dismiss Kyle. With Kyle gone, Sophia was promoted to be Kevin's chief assistant, while I took on the role of Mr. Thornton's assistant. Since Mr. Thornton and Kevin frequently worked together, Sophia and I ended up coordinating daily, spending much of the day together. Without Kyle's presence, Sophia gained confidence and tackled her work with a newfound boldness. As for Kyle, the dismissal marked his first real setback in a life of steady advancement. Word of his scheming against Sophia quickly spread to other major companies, making it nearly impossible for him to find work at a prestigious firm. With few options, he ended up teaching English at a language school. However, even there, he made a grave mistake. A hidden camera was discovered in one of the classrooms, and it was revealed that Kyle had installed it. Under police questioning, he confessed that he had developed an inappropriate attraction to a student and had acted on impulse. Fortunately, no one had been harmed, but he was charged and given a suspended sentence, leaving him with a criminal record. Unsurprisingly, he couldn't find a new job, and his life grew increasingly difficult. With no job and a criminal record, his wife eventually left him. She had managed their finances, and after she left, Kyle discovered she had squandered much of their savings. Despite having almost no money left, she demanded alimony. His record became known among the neighbors, and he faced constant judgment. To pay the alimony and escape the neighbors' scorn, he sold the house they had purchased. Moving to a new town, he tried to start over and spent his days searching for work. One day, in a moment of desperation, he shoplifted a can of mackerel from a supermarket. He was caught by store security and banned from the premises. The story of the former elite employee's downfall spread like wildfire and even reached my ears. Now, Kyle is reportedly spending lonely days working as a building janitor, the only job he managed to find. A year has passed since then. I confessed my feelings to Sophia, and we officially started dating. We've already met each other's parents. Sophia's parents are urging her to get married and settle down right away, but I want to approach this carefully. I don't want her to give up her career, and I want her to have every chance to grow as an individual. Sophia, who used to be prone to negative thoughts, now says that when she's with me, she feels she can be herself and fully unleash her potential. Right now, we're both exploring what choices would be best for our lives together.